shows the inside of a Victorian study with John Belushi as Dorian Gray sitting in a chair. Phil Hartman is Ben Hallward with a paintbrush in his hand standing in front of an easel, and Chris Farley is Hartman's painting with his face popping through a canvas on the easel. Belushi, how's the painting coming along, Ben? As Hartman paints around Farley's face to make him look like Belushi, he says, "Oh, it's coming along rather splendidly. We should be done soon." Norm MacDonald, as Lord Harry Wotton, walks into the room. Hartman, "Greetings, Lord Wotton. What brings you here?" MacDonald, "Oh, nothing much, other than I suppose I was hoping to say something very general about life and have it completely warp somebody's perspective." Hartman, "Of course. By the way, this is my dear friend Dorian Gray." Belushi, "Greetings, Lord Wotton." MacDonald, "Greetings to you, Mr. Gray. Let me ask you, what is the only worthwhile pursuit in life?" Belushi, "Doing the right thing?" MacDonald, "Nonsense. Why, pleasure is the only worthwhile pursuit, as what the gods give, they quickly take away." Belushi, "Wow, I didn't realize I should seek pleasure at the expense of everything else. Thank you, Lord Wotton." Hartman, "Well, the painting is finished. What do you think?" Belushi looks at Farley's face sticking through a canvas on the easel and says, "Oh, wow, Ben. It looks incredible. Thank you so much." MacDonald, "Mr. Howland, why don't you join me in throwing stones at the homeless men outside as we leave Mr. Gray here with his painting, along with that Egyptian cat statue in the back of the room." Shows Gilda Radner dressed as a cat posing as a statue in the corner of the room. Hartman and MacDonald leave. Belushi stares at Farley's face sticking through the canvas on the easel and says, "What the gods give, they quickly take away. As wonderful and youthful as I look in this painting, I will eventually age." Belushi looks over at Radner as a statue in the corner and says, "I wish that this painting of me would be the one that would age instead of me." Cuts to several months later in the Victorian study, with Belushi standing with Jan Hooks as Sally Vane, and Farley as the painting propped up on the wall. Hooks, "Oh, darling, after all the love we have shared together, I can't believe you're breaking up with me." Belushi, "Well, Sally, what can I say? There's a lot of ass out there, and I plan on getting as much of it as I can. Having you around, who I've already defiled plenty, will only serve to stand in the way. I'm sure you understand." Hooks runs out of the study crying. Belushi looks at Farley on the wall and says, "Oh my God, the painting of me here has noticeably become older, uglier, and fatter than me. My wish must have come true. While I have stayed the same, the painting here is starting to show an older, uglier, and fatter man. I better hide it from anyone else." Belushi lifts Farley off the wall and locks him into a closet. Cuts to 18 years later in the study, with Belushi looking exactly the same, and Hartman as Hallward looking noticeably older. Hartman, "I must say, Mr. Gray, it is an absolute marvel that you have managed to remain so young and handsome, while the rest of us age with the passage of time." Belushi nervously looks at Radner as a statue in the corner and says, "What can I say? I am a very lucky man to have been able to keep what the gods otherwise take away." Hartman, "By the way, I really need to use the crapper. Is this your bathroom?" As Hartman goes and opens the closet door where Farley is kept, Belushi yells, "Ben, no, don't open the door." Hartman opens the door and it shows Farley shirtless, disheveled, unshaven, and significantly older looking. Hartman, "Oh my God, what a horrible, hideous, terrible and fat-looking person this painting portrays. How is that possible? Belushi takes out a samurai sword and stabs Hartman, who falls to the ground to his death. Belushi shoves Farley and Hartman into the closet. Cuts to a Victorian bedroom with Belushi and Gilda Radner wearing cat ears, whiskers, and a cattail as Hallward's niece, Gwen Hallward. Radner: "That was wonderful, Dorian. Shall we go for round 2? Belushi: "Of course. The gods have failed to take my stamina." As Belushi and Radner go under the covers, shows Charlie Rocket as Sally Vane's brother John, spying at them through an open window in the bedroom. Rocket: "There he is, that selfish man who stopped having sex with my sister so he could have sex with a bunch of random strange instead. Now I will finally be able to get my revenge." A gunshot is heard, and Rocket falls out of the window. Cuts outside with Rocket laying dead on the ground. Oscar Wilde, as a hunter holding a rifle, approaches Rocket's body and says, "I guess that wasn't a bird after all. Whoops." Cuts back to the bedroom, where Belushi gets out of bed and looks out the window. Radner in bed says, "Darling, what's the matter?" Belushi: "Down on the ground is the body of Johnny Vane, the brother of a woman I used to have casual sex with. He must have been here to get revenge on me for no longer having sex with his sister. This is all my fault." Radner: "What's all your fault?" Belushi: "I made a wish long ago to defy the gods and remain here in my youth, seeking pleasure no matter the cost. Now the brother of a chick I used to kick it with is dead." Belushi takes Radner by the hand, leads her out of bed and says, "I'm a monster, Gwen. I treat others callously for my own selfish pleasures. Being with me will bring you nothing but pain, as I will always place my own desires above you and everything else. I'm sorry, but this is goodbye." Belushi leaves the bedroom. Radner shrugs, goes back to the bed, opens a drawer next to the bed, and takes out a vibrator. Cuts to the study as John Belushi enters. Belushi opens the closet door and takes out Farley. Belushi: "Even though you look slightly less hideous, old, and fat than you did before I broke it off with Gwen, you've caused nothing but despair to those in my life." Belushi takes out his samurai sword and stabs Farley, who goes down. Belushi reacts if he's also been stabbed and falls down onto the ground as well. Oscar Wilde enters the study and notices that Belushi is now the old, ugly, and fat one, while Farley looks like a young John Belushi. Wilde: "Dead from the earth, we're not alive. It's Saturday Night Alive, starring John Belushi, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, Norm MacDonald, Gilda Radner, Danitra Vance, and many other special deceased contributors. Musical guest, Stephen Adams, and your host, Angela Lansbury. Everybody, Angela Lansbury." Applause, applause, applause. Shows the inside of the Victorian study, with police tape surrounding the bodies of Belushi and Farley. Shows Gilda Radner with cat ears, whiskers, and a cattail as Gwen Hallward, and Phil Hartman and Norm MacDonald as detectives, standing in the room looking at the bodies. Tom Bosley as Sheriff Amos Topper enters the study. Bosley: "Okay, you two, any lead on this double homicide?" MacDonald: "Sit on it, Bosley." Hartman: "What my partner, Detective Yates, means, Sheriff, is that what we really could use to help us figure out this mystery is a mystery writer. preferably one who is widowed and a retired English teacher. Bosley, I know just the woman who fits the bill. McDonald, wait a second. Did you say a woman? Bosley, yeah, is there a problem? McDonald, no, not at all, actually. I just have really terrible hearing. Pardo, tonight on Murder, She Wrote. Angela Lansbury as Jessica Fletcher enters the study. Applause, applause, applause. Bosley, welcome, Jessica. We need to solve this double homicide here. Lansbury, well, for starters, it's actually a single homicide, along with the painting that's been destroyed. McDonald kicks Farley on the ground and says, how about that? That's not really a dead guy. It's just a painting. Lansbury, it appears to be a painting of the actual decedent. Lansbury approaches Radnor and says, and you were the last person to see Mr. Gray alive. Is that correct? Radnor, as far as I know, yes. Lansbury looks around the study and notices that there is a base of a missing statue. Lansbury approaches the base and says, I can tell by the carvings that this is the base to an early 19th century Egyptian cat statue that had been designed to make people lose perspective on what's really important and instead strive for short-term pleasure. Radnor starts to fidget as she becomes nervous. McDonald looks at Radnor and says, what's with the skirt here? She's starting to act like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Lansbury approaches Radnor, looks her up and down, and says, why, this young lady isn't actually Gwen Hallward, but instead is an Egyptian cat statue that cursed the victim, Mr. Gray, by making him never age, and instead having the painting of him age into an old-looking, ugly, and fat version of himself. Not being satisfied with merely making the victim seek pleasure at the expense of others, she pretended to be a love interest related to the man Mr. Gray killed, in order to draw out his previous lover's brother, who was shot by a hunter, because this little harlot here knew that Mr. Gray would then see the errors of his way and kill himself. Bosley puts handcuffs on Radnor and says, you got anything to say for yourself, you pesky pussycat? Radnor, that's right. I led Mr. Gray to his demise. And I would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for this widowed retired English teacher turned mystery writer. Lansbury, well, I guess that's tough titties for you. Folks, I had a wonderful, incredible life and career. I was a star in the golden age of Hollywood cinema, and I was in many amazing films, including the picture of Dorian Gray, and of course was very lucky to star for 12 seasons in the critically acclaimed show, Murder, She Wrote. Applause, applause, applause. Phil Hartman taps Lansbury on the shoulder and says, I apologize, you seem to be in the middle of something here, but we really are going to need you to take a statement for the report. Lansbury, okay, folks, I need to help wrap this case up, but we have a wonderful show tonight. The composer Stephen Adams is here, so come join us as we enter the Holy City. We'll be right back.